I always envision a ladder, not a crutch. Like when you have something, you don't want it to be a crutch to just help you with walking. You want it to be something that catapults you, something that can actually help you grow.
It would help so many people that I was like, I would rather fight for millions than fight for, thousands.
I think so much goes into the hustle, and that drive is a good thing. But it's crazy how that drive piece, it almost came to a point where it like took over your health for a moment.
It's harder for me when you outgrow people or you outgrow things. That empathetically weighs on me more than the actual goal target.
Welcome back to the Successful Stylist Academy podcast. I'm your host, Ambrosia Carey, and we get to have more fun-filled chats with some of my favorite people. This is round 2. We get to have my girlfriend and founder of SalonScale, Alicia Soulier. We're going to get right into the nuts and bolts of her story, and let's just get kind of vulnerable today. I'm feeling it, guys. Alicia, how's it going, girl?
I'm excited. I'm excited to share some raw stories with you.
Raw is the name of the game. That's why I love podcasting the most, because I feel like it's unrehearsed, and I like that it's not so much like a Q&A format. So hearing the stories, hearing like kind of what goes into the heart of the business and what keeps you going, what gets you up at night. Hopefully you sleep through the night. What gets you up in the morning? I'm only laughing so much because I know what it's like to run a business, and I'm sure there are lots of sleepless nights too. But I just want to give you the mic. I want to give you the floor. I want to hear some stories, or even if there's a story that went into the development of SalonScale and why you were like, no, I have to put my all into this.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I think it's that good old entrepreneurial roller coaster. I think you have to be prepared that when you take that step forward, there's going to be a lot of highs and a lot of lows. And yeah, so I think, for me, I feel like I'm now kind of embracing that this is just like a natural thing that like every few months, I'm probably going to deal with different ways of growing. But I think it all kind of stems from, I just want to make a difference. Like, I just want to be validated for working so hard that I would fight tooth and nail to make something happen. Right. And I think we all kind of come from that. But for me personally, it was like, I just wanted to exist in this world and was willing to sacrifice family, friends, wealth, health to put something out there so that, I could, help others, or I could, make a difference. And what I didn't realize was getting it out there isn't easy. And I had to completely like almost change myself along the way. I had to strip parts of myself that I really loved. I had to like not be a hairdresser anymore. I had to not be a salon owner anymore. I had to move into like understanding, what my needs were as a CEO of a tech company. And I think I really questioned myself every step of the way. And it's something that's like this self-sabotaging that we do, and the constantly like hating on ourselves, or like, you're not enough, or maybe if you have this, then there's this. It's just like this competitiveness internally. Although we can mask it and say, I've got good drive, there's also the evil side of drive that is like so toxic, and it really stunts the things that you need to do. And so when we talk about a pivotal moment, I've had several. I've spoke about this one before where, at one point I had just started SalonScale. I had a little baby. My daughter was only 3. My son was 5. And I also had, the salon. So I had like all 3 of these things happening all at the same time. And my salon ended up, I lost some of my top talent. They went on to do their own thing. So the business took a big hit that year. So it was like taking a deep dive. All meanwhile, I'm trying to get SalonScale going. And SalonScale, at this time, I'm learning how to raise venture capital, raise money to hire people to keep that going. So I'm trying to balance all these things around, and SalonScale has like 23 days of money left. So SalonScale is going to go bankrupt in 23 days. And my salon was going complete, and I had no energy to give. Like that was the side, and my ego was completely crushed. Like there was nothing that was telling me that just get up and fight, Alicia. You could do this. I wanted to give up so bad that day. Like I wanted to quit so bad and just pack it in. I remember even like I say like when I was in the shower and like the weight of the water was so heavy that I couldn't breathe. Like I was hyperventilating. Like I was in a state of panic, my first panic attack, my first real panic attack. And in that moment, I didn't think that I was going to get through this. I thought like something had to give. And truly, honestly, I think I got through it one step at a time. But I managed to end up getting the salon, getting the energy back, getting the salon on track, getting the salon set up to be sold. Actually, I think that was the day I decided I need to let go of one of these things. I pulled like I turned into a baddie. Like I freaking like I drove to every single angel investor in my province, and I was like, "Look, you're not going to want to miss out on this deal. Here's the deal." And I raised $100,000 in a week, which made SalonScale come alive. I then went on to raising $500,000 in that month, so that was nuts. So now SalonScale was up, and the salon was on its path to be sold. And that release or that tension or that overwhelming thing got to release. And one thing that I was like, wow, I'm never going to have to experience that again. And the reality is no, like I've had to do that over and over and over. But that probably was one of the hardest moments. And that was the moment where I sacrificed everything. I gave away every single thing I could for SalonScale, because at the end of the day, to be honest, Ambrosia, I was like, do I fight for the salon that is this is $1 million business? I could easily stay in that salon and then just like screw the tech company. Or like on the other side, this tech company I could just feel it like it would completely change the industry. It would help so many people that I was like, I would rather fight for millions than fight for, thousands. And so I think that was the day that I just went all in and was like, let's do this.
Wow, you had a point of clarity, but I wrote this down actually. There is the evil side of drive, because that was the beacon. That was the red light that made you say like, oh, wait a minute, maybe I need to honor myself and actually like lean into the thing that I know is a good idea and put my all into it instead of trying to play it safe. So even though your drive was getting you there, it was one of those things where your body kind of knew before you were like allowing your brain or your heart or whatever it was that was kind of pulling you and wanting you to hang on to the thing, which I know you called it ego, but I do think when you have drive, it's so easy to tell yourself that you can juggle a million balls. Just throw another one in there, folks. We can just do it all. So I'm glad that I'm not glad. I mean, it's hard to hear this thing is a repetitive thing. And this is something that I feel like connects all of us so much that have that drive in us. A lot of times we don't listen to ourselves. We wait until there's a state of emergency or panic, or it takes something that involves our health or our well-being or mental health in order for us to realize like, oh my gosh, I am not honoring what I need to be honoring right now. So I'm just glad that you were able to release something, knowing that you had done what you needed to do. You created and cultivated a really strong team, and you made a beautiful salon, and you were able to pass it off to someone else who wanted to give it just as much love and maybe even more, because she wanted to put her all into that. So cool to hear that you actually like face that and you realize that you needed to put your all into SalonScale in order for it to really take off. And it truly became your baby at that point, it sounds like. So does it become easier to pitch to investors after so many years of doing this now, especially being a female in tech? Like, can we talk about that for a second? Because you're probably one of the very few women when you walk into a room, right? I mean, you're just surrounded by men in the tech industry.
It's definitely getting better, but I think less than 4% of tech companies in the world are ran by women.
Wow.
And that's crazy. Also, women that raise money, I think we raise like, on average 30 to 40% less than men do. So like, I mean, it's coming around, but it's really hard. Companies like that get to that post $1 million status or post reoccurring revenue, those companies, it's like less than like 97%. I think 97% of startups fail. And so we're like hitting all these boxes, which is like female led, salon tech. Like we have like world-class metrics, like the amount of like benchmarks that we're hitting. This, like, I want everyone in the industry to know this is like, we are hitting every single standard SaaS metric benchmark. We're like nailing it. And it's like, it's unheard of from female tech, small town, Saskatchewan, Canada, like super out there. But it's because our industry is so great, and it's something that was needed, and there's that. But I will tell you that raising, did it get harder, or it gets harder every time. It gets harder every time because your first stages of raising money, they're betting on the pony, they're betting on the horse, right? And so it's kind of like a game of like, is this the right person that's going to actually like build this company to a certain level? And they have to take a big risk on that. And so now the next phase is like when you get into raising like large amounts of money, like I'm talking 5 million plus, you're probably raising 5, 10, $20 million. It's all metric focused. So it's really on like, is there a market for this? And then like, does your metrics make sense? So I've had to like, in a room filled with predominantly men, explain SalonScale in a metric landscape. Like instead of me being so passionate, like I spent my whole life selling myself as a hairstylist and then a salon owner, and like take me seriously, to now being in a boardroom to be like, let me tell you about the math and the metrics involved in my business and how it equates to whatever evaluation and whatever equates to what your ROI would be at the end. If we, IPO, or if we go for a acquisition, like depending on what we're going for, this is what I believe the business is going to do. And so, imposter syndrome, all-time high. Okay, this is the part where it's like, I am literally, here's what I do. I actually visualize everyone in the industry when I go into the room, because I'm like, someone needs to fight for us. Like someone needs to do it. So I actually don't know half the things I'm talking about, but I deliver it with confidence. And I'm like, this is it, to the point that now I'm starting to understand that it's right. Like that is actually really what it happens. I'm like, we're going to grow 100% year over year. We do it. Like, it's like, you kind of have to just commit. But the imposter syndrome is so real. And the reality is these people are not out to get you. And at the end of the day, when you pitch it and you think about it, it's like, I'm giving them so much more of an opportunity than them giving me just cash, right? The cash will fuel my car. But at the end of the day, I'm going to turn their, $1 million investment into like hundreds of millions of dollars. So if you think about it, it's like, if you can get to a place where you can confidently deliver some news and like own that, and like, you have to be powered by something. So for me, I just close my eyes and I just think about the industry, and I just think about like, someone has to do it. Someone has to go in there and talk about it. So I'll take a few hits, and sometimes they'll question you on your math, or they'll be like, well, wait a minute, if your acquisition costs are this, and what about this, and I'll be like, yeah, let me speak to my accountant about that, or let me speak to my financial operator. But essentially, honestly, yeah, I learn every single time.
Wow. Talk about having to divide yourself almost. Like, it's almost polar opposite of our industry, because even though the tool is being used for the finance side and for the numbers side of it, which is completely non-emotional, in order for the hairstylist and even the salon owner to understand it, there's such an emotional pulse that has to be tied to it for people to understand it. And oftentimes, this is the hard part, I think, is that once people realize they need it, it's when they've been losing so much money. It's when they've been spending those sleepless nights. It's when they're about to close their doors. So it's almost like counseling, right? Like, you start going to counseling,
yes,
like when it's past the point where you should have gone like years ago. But I think it's really cool to hear that you're able to have the emotional piece drive you as you're setting up to bat to like actually say something to investors, and then you're able to deliver something in a way that makes sense to them. You have to speak their language. Like, you literally have to just bring out the numbers. So you were mentioning imposter syndrome a couple times, and I feel like the struggle is real in our industry. It's not just our industry, it's kind of just like a people problem in general. And I'm always so curious about this because you and I sometimes have like these philosophical conversations that have nothing to do with it, anything that we're actually doing, but so much to do with what we're doing. It's the really internal part of it. Where do you think imposter syndrome comes from?
I think it directly is like kind of a self-confidence thing. There's probably something there. And I also think as children, I mean, how many, like, if you think about it as like you dream of being like the CEO in the boardroom, right? But like how many times were you in that room learning and discovering what that is? So I think imposter syndrome comes from like feeling like I've never been in here and I'm paving the way, and I don't know who I could trust to like actually say that I'm struggling here. I don't really know what I'm talking about. And then as a female, sometimes like trusting other people in the room is really, really hard because you're thinking it's times 10. Like they're really going to not take me seriously because, of just how, society was. But I think it comes from that, you're in imposter syndrome when you're in a room that you've always dreamt about. But you're having to pave the way, or you're going to have to pave the conversations and tools. And so imposter syndrome is actually a positive. It's a reality check. It's like, when you want to pinch your arm when you're dreaming, it's the pinch on your arm that you're dreaming. You are in a situation that you probably dreamt about. And now you feel like an imposter? No, look around. You've wanted this to happen. It's just that now it's all going to be fueled internally from you to talk and be that person. So show up, shine bright, and just tell whoever's in your head, telling you that you're like, not enough for this, tell the person to sit down and watch the show.
I love it. When you were talking, I wrote a couple things down that stood out to me that you were saying. And I feel like if you could dissect it a little bit, it's the confidence piece meets maybe that trust factor and plus the unknown. Like, I feel like that would be the formula of where imposter syndrome comes from. And it's scary when you don't know the known, when you don't know what's going to happen. But that means that you're actually putting yourself out there and you're not going to get something. I mean, we always say like you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And if you don't know what's going to happen, that means that you are actually trying to make a shot. Like you're taking your shot. So that's really inspiring to hear that even though you do face imposter syndrome, you're able to push through it and you deliver it in a way that you're speaking for the industry. It's not just for you. What I'm envisioning when you're talking, I'm just envisioning the industry standing behind you while you're speaking, and you're being that person, like the flagship, is it flagship? I don't know, pioneer. A pioneer. You're like the flagship in front, and you're pioneering this message. It sounds like the hardship right now then is you're almost up against your previous numbers then. So you're trying to show that you guys are literally scaling and you have the potential to scale even more. So year over year, it gets more challenging, right? Because you have to beat your own numbers. You have to beat your own game. Is that right? Is that kind of how that works?
Oh, absolutely. Oh. Yeah. And then you also have like the industry benchmarks, or like, let's say, like when I say SaaS, it's software as service. So that would be the financial model that we're in. So when we look at, globally what SaaS metrics are, you also want to stay on that because that triggers, new investment or that you're investable. Like it kind of shows a little bit of things, but you are always competing. This actually brought up a interesting thought I just had right now, which is I used to think that growing and growth was like more like horizontal, like, you accomplish this, then you get this, then you get this. And I was always moving forward horizontally. And what I realized is like, actually it's more vertical. And what happens is like, as you climb this mountain or as you take on these more responsibilities and you do all this stuff, like it's almost too much work to come back, that you have to shed the person you were on that first peak or that second peak or whatever you're going through. So the next steps are steeper and the next, places are unpaved, and you have to kind of do that. So therefore you have to trust that, first of all, set that goal and go for it, because that's got to be something that's going to keep you going. And then surround yourself around the people that will probably help you get there. And I think, I think just honestly, yeah, I'm not so much afraid of the goal. Um, it's the letting go for me that's harder. It's harder for me when you outgrow people or you outgrow things. That empathetically weighs on me more than the actual goal target. Like I'm like, I'll crush a target, no problem. But it's the saying goodbye to people that aren't ready to go. That's probably harder for me.
That makes sense. That's the human side that we just can't quite let go of. But it's also the human side that keeps you close to your drive and purpose behind what it is that you're doing too. So there's the irony right there. But I love that you said it that way. You know, one of the things I love to say, I've said this many times, you guys are probably tired of hearing me say this, but I always envision a ladder, not a crutch. Like when you have something, you don't want it to be a crutch to just help you with walking. You want it to be something that catapults you, something that can actually help you grow and help you climb. And that makes sense. Like the higher you get, the more almost like weight you have to drop. Like you have to be able to shed things, and there's this kind of like almost rebirthing process that happens as you discover new things, because new challenges are going to come up as you grow. That's all the part of growing pains. But if you don't have those challenges, then are you actually growing, or are you just kind of recycling the same stuff? And eventually you'll run out of money, time, interest, all those things. There's so much that goes into that. It's almost like the stock market in a way, the way I'm thinking about it. Okay, now I want to go back into your personal life a little bit, because I know SalonScale, you guys have been crushing it with numbers. There's been a lot of interest. There are a lot of my peers that are using SalonScale. A lot of people that I'm coaching, they're either already using SalonScale or they're, just starting. So when I'm talking to you, Alicia, my friend, the person who tries to remove themselves and have a personal life, that has a husband and has children, how are you able to honor your own time and your own health? What things have you implemented in your life to make sure that you're like, okay, I have to turn work off for a moment so I can honor this?
Well, let's just say I have to work on it a lot more. I feel like I'm kind of that like all or nothing kind of person. Like I will push myself aggressively. And I think it does take that, like being in an innovative situation, like I'm going to have to work very hard. There's a lot of people that rely on that to happen. However, the last year I really changed my mindset, and I thought about like, what are things that I can do to add back to myself so that I could be even stronger for my teams. And I never valued relaxation. And I just like, I thought having time off or like having a day and going to the spa was like a distraction from where I was going. I didn't realize that it would actually help reset my mind and give me energy to like get through other things. So I look at it as like, what in my cup do I need to do to be abundant? And there was a few things. Number one, it was like wealth. Like, am I paying myself enough? So I was like, I need to make more money, because this is like, I can't tell everybody else this is what they need to do and then not do it for myself. So wealth was number one. I was like, I need a pay increase. The next one was health. I was like, I need to prioritize my health. And so I challenged myself to a 75 hard kind of challenge. I actually did it twice this year. I ended up like losing like 81 pounds over the last year and a half.
Wow.
But the things that changed, it was like, I mentally was okay. I was like able to pay myself. I was able to like enjoy my days. I was healthier throughout the days. And then the last one was just like, was being more prepared, not to last minute. Oh, but this thing. I started to work on how do I set myself up to be prepared. So creating more plans of actions. And you know what I realized was I was giving myself too many tasks. I was trying to expect to be the perfect thing for everything. And when I dissected that and I looked back, it's like, there's just not enough time to do all these things. So by paying myself more, by going to the gym to get clarity and really taking time to planning comes around. For me, it started with education, reading and learning into like how others are doing it. And then I would like start to apply those week to week. And then it really helped me get this abundance mindset where now the more I invest in myself, the more everybody else is rising. And I'm able to see things instead of pouring from this half-filled cup, because I think what would happen was my cup would only be filled up about halfway, and then I would get a little low. And then that's when like resentment comes in. So like that's where I found like I'd have my mood when I would get low would be like I'd be resentful, I'd be angry, I'd be irritable. I would feel like I'm pouring my last little bits of energy to everybody else. And I would say things like, why can't anybody else figure this out? Like, why is it always on me? Like I was saying these kinds of things. And so I just kind of shifted into this like, put yourself first. Like, what do you want? Do you want to go to the spa once a month and do this? And I'm like, absolutely. So I scheduled it. And that's the last tip I will say here is like, I now schedule it on the quarter. I'm like, I take a week off a quarter and I make sure that like I schedule all my massages, my spa, everything. I just schedule it and I commit to the quarter. And if you can do that and schedule it and stick to it, crazy things can happen. But for me, that's honestly the only way that I could get through a lot of what I do is by changing the way I kind of start and end my day.
It was a really big mindset thing is what I'm hearing then. So you had to really develop something that would not just honor you, but help you with the longevity of what you're able to do in your day-to-day. And I think sometimes people don't listen to themselves, and it goes on so long that kind of what you were saying, the resentment starts to settle in because you're tapped out, you're doing too many things, and then you can't be 100% anywhere. So that's really cool that you did that you actually made the mind up for yourself, because no one's pushing you to do it. Like you have to want it and you have to do it yourself. It sounds like that mindset came because you wanted it, not because another emergency happened that made you have to do that. It's not like an anxiety attack started that. So these are the little nuggets that I'm taking away from hearing your story. And, you know, you've always been somebody in my life, like just from the very beginning when I first met you, that I felt like, wow, this is a strong business person, but also somebody who honors like the human side of her life and doesn't fake her way through things, and is, you know, I mean, truly, I don't know another word to say other than authentically themselves, but I believe in you as a person. I believe in what you believe in. And I think that's a really strong piece that we need to continue to tie in our industry, because oftentimes it's almost like, think about the things that you're drawn to and why are you drawn to them? A lot of times it's because those stories resonate with you. And a lot of times it's because you feel connected to that because it's a part of your core value system. It's a part of something that feels like it could be home to you. Like Alicia is a friend of mine, you know? And so the reason why she's a friend of mine is because our core values are strongly aligned. It's because we want better for the industry. It's because we want to see more of you guys succeed. And it's because we want you guys to have a robust career. We want you to have money that you can actually thrive on and have ultimate wealth for your own health, but your own livelihood and your family. And talk about that. I mean, even generational wealth, it is possible to have in our industry. And I think one of the things about our industry that I would love to see happen, and I think this probably goes for you, Alicia. I'm just going to speak for you. Is that when we entered this industry, there was a closed mindset. There was a mindset that, you know, being able to have a career in this industry, that was the benchmark. And now it's like, no, screw that. It's not about having a career. You can have like actual financial and generational wealth and independence and freedom. And that is something that we have got to beat into our industry. We have to remind people that, no, if you are with people who want to pioneer like Alicia, pioneer with those who have a stronger vision, who are willing to step up to the bat, who are willing to step up to the bat, who are willing to step up to the plate and go to bat for you. So I think the last piece of this, Alicia, just for those of you guys who need some context that aren't familiar with SalonScale, and I will be linking that episode into the show notes so that you can click on it if you have time to listen. But Alicia, would you mind just telling everyone about SalonScale and what it's been doing for the industry? Because I think hearing it from you is such a powerful message.
Well, first of all, thank you. I think I appreciate you so much. And being called and labeled authentic means a lot to me. So thank you for that, by the way. I'm like, I told you tears may come out today. No, that was one.
Girl, I've gotten to know you. I get it. And I've been to your home, for crying out loud. I've seen your kids. Yes. I've met your husband. Like, I know your whole team. You know, everyone in your life that you involve is because they're a part of you. They're all a part of you. And so, and I love that. That's something that I'm just like, all day, every day, I'll hang out, you know? So no questions asked. If you ever needed me, like, you could text me at freaking midnight and I'd be like half asleep. And if you're like, I need you, on the phone immediately. No questions asked. God. So yeah, authentic girl.
I love it. Okay, let's get the whole works on SalonScale. So essentially, just to make it simple, SalonScale, we make salons profitable. So we essentially put cash in your business. So when looking at technology, you know, it kind of stops at the front, right? You got your booking software and you got the computers at the front, but then as soon as you cross into the service side, you'll notice that there's just nothing controlling the leaks in your business. And when over 70% of your business is done in the back of the salon, we really needed to fix that leak. So a couple of years ago, I came up with this wild idea and created an app that measures hair color in real time. And essentially what it is it exchanges your formula for a cost breakdown. So now you kind of get a win-win situation. We're going to give you your digital formula, so you'll never have that moment like, oh shit, what did I use before? And in exchange, we do a calculation for you that tells you how much that formula costs per customer. So why, and I'm bold enough to say we make salons profitable, is because the only way to be profitable is to understand, number one, what is your overhead? And then number two, what does it cost? What is the variable expenses in that session? So when you're doing a service, we are missing out on that product usage a little bit. So sometimes we guess, which leads to stressing, or we make these things up where we're like, we're going to hit a target, but yet we're not doing anything to measure to make sure we hit those targets. So essentially, it gives you that transparency to separate it and see exactly the cost in real time. And that right there being passed on to the consumer is now making sure nothing leaves your back bar unpaid for. Coming next year, we're adding the extension of adding inventory. So there you can now see in real time the exact dollar of everything in your back bar. So we will be the only back bar management software on the planet that handles the entire back bar, from foils to gloves to treatments and more. And my most excited part about that from a salon owner lens is like, I hated year end. I hated going and doing like my bookkeeper or whatever. I'd be like, oh, what's your inventory at? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, like 10 grand. Like, I hated doing that part of my business, but I was losing out on thousands of dollars and I wasn't as organized. So I was like, I'm going to build a solution and I'm going to add this on SalonScale so that in a click of a button, you're going to know exactly what the value of your shelf is. And then paired with the app, making sure that we're charging, we're going to increase your revenue, decrease your expenses, all in all, maximizing your profitability. The last thing I'm going to say is that's not the end. Like, SalonScale is so much more than just software. SalonScale is going to take like that fear out of like, do I know what I'm doing? Am I charging this? Is this right? And it's going to just objectively give you the information that you need. I've seen so much change in the industry, and it's sometimes like an overwhelming kind of like feeling, but seeing how many salon owners and stylists that use us feel so empowered now, that's the feeling I want you to have with SalonScale. I want you to feel like you are the badass boss that you know you are, and that you know your numbers. Don't let anyone fool you. You know what you're doing. And that's how we want you to feel no matter what we make at SalonScale.
Thank you. That was such a great description. And I just have to add, you guys, it's not so much about just knowing the numbers. Like, listen to what was happening here. You get to see your inventory tracking in real time. All of your formulas are stored in your phone and any device that you want to connect it to through Bluetooth. All of the notes and information on each one of your clients that you want to input in there, it makes it so much easier, so you can just take it with you wherever you are, no matter what your business layout is. Because right now, if you are on social media and you guys are listening to this and you see hairstylists, coaches, salon owners, independents that are going on and talking about their business, great. Listen to it with a grain of salt. Please do not take their advice and inject it in your business. You need to understand your numbers. And the only way that you can understand your numbers and how you want to move forward with your business is if you have something that can track it. And if you're not good at tracking it, as most of us aren't, because we want to focus on the art and we want to focus on the client and the experience, let the app do it for you, because it is completely 100% accurate. It's the most accurate of any, and it's not just a scale, because a lot of times people think like, oh, it's a scale that measures things. Like, yeah, it starts there. And then it computes everything for you. It tells you down to the penny how much everything is costing you. So this is such a valuable piece of information. And I just wanted you guys not just to remind you of it, but I want you to make clarity of it. And I want you to make some understanding and a relationship with it, instead of listening to other people, what they're charging for their clients. You don't know their demographic. You don't know where they're living. You don't know how long they've been doing hair. You don't know what product line they're using. You don't know their approach. You don't know how long it takes them to do it. Stop listening to what other people are doing with their business. Start looking at your numbers and learn how to support your business so that it can grow and be prosperous, and you guys can have an amazing career, wealth, health, all those things. So Alicia, thank you once again for hanging out with us. And I love hearing your story. I want to hear more of your stories sometime in the future, because what you're doing for our industry is just incredible. But what I love to hear about your story is that you are one of us. You are a hairstylist, a salon owner, and you really understand what goes into our industry. And that is truly unique to come up with something that solves such a huge issue that most of us want to run the other way. We want to throw out a number and just hope for the best. And that is not going to build a sustainable business for anyone. So thank you so much for hanging out, and thank you so much for what you do for our industry. And I love you to death, girl. And I can't wait to just even shoot the shit and talk on the phone in real time. Please remember to dream big, set goals, take action. I will see you guys next week. And I will also link the SalonScale in the show notes, because if you're not using it, you already know what the next thing is. Go get it, guys. Come on now. Take care, everyone. Thanks.